Man to man, combat hand to hand, hands locked, ready for the last stand, elbow drops, kicks fade bang. If I connect you, levitate, better settle mate, lights out, knocked out by the heavyweight.
It's Toby from Heavyweight MMA, today with Josh Culibao from Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. Professional MMA fighter, fighting currently in the UFC and increasing your level, bro. You hit a win on the last one, man. You're doing well so far. You're escalating. Each fight, you're getting better and better in the UFC. You must be feeling good about that.
Yeah, I'm actually really starting to find my groove now. I feel like the first couple of fights kind of took me a little bit to kind of warm up to the, knowing that I'm fighting on the world's biggest stage and, fighting in the organization that I've always wanted to fight in since I was, a teenager. So yeah, it's starting just to feel like any normal kind of fight for me. So yeah, it's before I kind of made it bigger than what it was, I feel, and it made it worse for me. So now I'm just making it feel like as if it's just like fighting locally, like how I used to. So yeah.
Man, it's good to see the transformation. First fight, obviously late notice, come in not looking the best, right, as you mentioned. And then obviously didn't do too well in the first one. Second one did very well, a questionable draw. And then looking a lot more in shape, ready to go. Looking like a completely different fighter, to be honest, compared to the first one when you watch it.
Yeah.
And then third fight again. You came up against a great fighter, very solid fighter from China and did really well and got the win. So, next it's going to have to be a finish, man, to one up the last one, right?
100%. That's always going to be the goal now. I feel like, to really stand out amongst all those UFC fighters, amongst all those numbers in UFC, you got to really go out there and, not only finish people, but make it look easy finishing these people. So I think that's the next step for me is to obviously go out there and, make it look easy.
That's it. And so before you were fighting on the local scene before UFC, you fought on Hex Fight Series, Diamondback, and Super Fight MMA. You were unbeaten at that stage when you went to the UFC, man. How did it feel in yourself to suddenly come up on that late notice fight and get the loss, man? And after you're feeling probably unbeatable, you come up against the strong fighter in Jalen Turner and get finished. How did that feel, bro?
Yeah, look, it sucks. I know I haven't tasted defeat since back in my amateur days, and you're on a massive high, but it's all a learning curve for me. It was definitely a massive, one of those things that you just needed to happen for you to sort of wake up to it, because if it didn't happen, then I'd probably just go along doing what I used to do. And the biggest thing was just like, I can't be that type of fighter that's, when I'm out of camp, not training at all, eating completely shit, drinking, partying, that's the unprofessional lifestyle, and now that I'm competing on the highest level, you can't afford to have that, and yeah, you can't just get by with just talent now. Everybody's talented in the UFC. So yeah, it's definitely a massive wake up call, and yeah, it was a painful wake up call. So that one's gonna stick with me, and it's a massive reminder. So yeah.
And man, like I said, you're on the local scene, fighting in Liverpool and Punch Bowl, bro, and then suddenly you take off and you're in Auckland and Abu Dhabi, then Las Vegas with the biggest show in the world, fighting on the big stage. How was that experience, man, in comparison?
The Auckland one was obviously massive because there was a full stadium full of screaming Kiwis and Aussies, which was like surreal. But then like the Abu Dhabi and the last Las Vegas fight was pretty. What would I say? Like pretty. It just felt like a glorified sparring session where there was lots of lights and there was like. There wasn't a crowd. There wasn't like that crowd feeling that gets you amped up, and there's no family in the corner. There's no friends that you can see in the crowd, and those two fights just felt like as if it was like a glorified sparring session where I didn't have to pull any punches. But yeah, the one in Auckland was unreal with the amount of crowd and people screaming and the bright lights. So I think it worked out into my favor. The whole of COVID happened because it kind of, there was no crowd, and it gave me that feel of like just a sparring session.
Man, you mentioned that the fight in Las Vegas. That fight was against that. I don't know how to say his name, otherwise I would. It looks like a confusing name. The Chinese gentleman, Shailan Nudanbike or something.
Not a Beck or something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
confusing name, bro. This guy looked like a very strong fighter, man. He's typical, actually, of the Chinese fighters that are coming out now. They're really like trying to up their wrestling game over the last decade, and that's the sort of resulting fighter they get. The guys that are pretty strong in the stand up, and they go straight to the grapple and the ground control and that, man. So you did well to stay away from that, tire him out, and you was actually at the end of the first round, after he was just trying to take you down the whole round. It looked so sharp. You just snapped his head back a few times, man, and that was a nice fight to watch, eh?
Thank you. Yeah. He was like you said, he's a big, strong dude. And I knew that those big muscles, it doesn't take much for them to fill up with blood and, for him to tire out. So I just sort of, kind of rode the wave, let him do what he needed to do. And then when he was huffing and puffing, that was my time to start to change gears and, leave him behind.
That's it, man. And being a gentleman from Australia with Filipino heritage, I want to talk a little bit about your history and background, man. I read that your mother's from Boracay and your father from Pampanga, and your dad had a bit of used to watch a bit of Bruce Lee, so he's been a bit of an influence on you.
Yep. Yeah, he was my dad was a massive fan of Bruce Lee, and he was a massive fan of just like any sort of any form of combat he enjoyed watching. So like most weekends, most weeknights, there would always be some form of like boxing or some sort of martial arts film on. So yeah, he was he really loved, I wouldn't say martial arts, but he really loved, I think, violence and combat. So I think that kind of rubbed off on me and my brothers.
And you mentioned about seeing the Philippines before and seeing some of the hardships that a few of the people over there go through, and that's a bit of an inspiring thing for you, that you can see how lucky you are, and that in Australia and in a decent career that you want to do, yeah, right?
100%. We used to always, my family used to visit like every year, and growing up and, from where we are, we get coffees, there's like nice roads, there's good schools, and then you go to the Philippines, and then like during the weekdays, there's like 6 or 8 year olds, you see them just walking the streets, picking up plastic bags and anything that's recyclable, basically to bring in, recycle, or get money for recycling it, just so they could eat food for the day. Like it like really hits you hard, because I was around the same age when they were doing that, and I used to ask my mom and dad, like, what are they doing? Well, why are they doing that? And then for them to explain it to me while I'm in a nice air conditioned car, driving to a hotel room, while they're out there on the streets, with their siblings, going and collecting plastic bags, or if they're not collecting plastic bags, they're trying to sell like peanuts, sell soft drinks, sell fruit. They're just trying to hustle just so they can make it day by day. So that was a massive thing for me growing up, watching that stuff, and making everything that I do feel like so grateful for.
Yeah, man, definitely makes you realize how lucky everyone is in Australia, right? Firstly, for just the conditions of living, and then secondly, that everyone is equal there, basically. That's something that also stands out when you go to different countries, eh?
100%.
And then your early days, your brother, you've got 3 siblings, is it? And
I've got 3 older brothers.
Your brother Justin started Taekwondo. You and your other brother Joseph followed along, and that sort of kicked you off into your training. After a few backyard fights, after that, you kicked off into some MMA. Is that right?
100%. That was it. That's exactly it. It's pretty dumb. I've said this before. It's pretty stupid. But yeah, that's. I feel like that's one of those things. Like, boys will be boys. After high school, me, my brother, his friends, my friend group, his friend group used to come over to my backyard, and yeah, we just chuck gloves on. No any experience at all, and we just do rounds of so-called boxing, where we, had no clue of boxing, yet we were like punching the shit out of each other basically. So yeah, it was pretty dumb, but that's one of those things of boys will be boys. So
I think it's something that is particular to some cultures, man, because we did that growing up too, man, just in the backyard, get a couple pair of gloves, put a hose around in a circle, and that's the ring, and then off you go, man. But I don't, like where I'm living now, I don't think kids would do that ever, but yeah, it seems to be something in some countries anyway.
Yeah. I think we're built different.
That's it, man. And do you have any, like, talking about the Philippines and that, do you have any particular fighters that you pay attention to that are from the Philippines that you like follow?
I've growing up, I've had heaps of role models that I looked up to. A lot of fighters. Obviously the main one is Manny. Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah.
And then had Brandon Vera. You had Mark Munoz. Those guys are the guys that I used to look up to and see fighting in the UFC, and realizing they're Filipino blood. It kind of gave me that like pride that like, oh, he's Filipino. If this Filipino can do it, I'm Filipino. Why can't why shouldn't I be able to do that sort of thing? So those guys, and to be honest, they always, I feel like, because they've all experienced exactly what I was speaking about in the Philippines, is that they realize how grateful they are for what they're able to do, be able to choose a sport that they want to do and chase a dream that they want to chase. Most Filipinos don't get a chance to chase their dreams. They sort of have to live a life that is basically just for the income, so they can live, and that they can support their own family. So it's like the fighters you can tell personality wise that they're very humble, and they're very grateful what they're able to do. So I feel like it's a personal trait, like a cultural trait that, like, as Filipinos, you see a lot of Filipinos. I don't see too many cocky Filipinos out there that are always bragging and claiming that they make this much money, and they're just, you can see that they're just very humble and very grateful for what they're able to do.
Yeah, man. And any current MMA fighters that you follow that are from the Philippines or Philippines based?
Like any of the, like, a lot of them fight in one championship. There's not too many, not that I can think of, not too many Filipinos in the UFC. But yeah, I do watch a lot of the Filipinos in one championship. Like a lot of the guys from Team Lakay in I think it's Baguio City, I think. But yeah, a lot of those guys like Edward Foliang and stuff like that. So yeah, big fan of all those guys.
Yeah. Where I live now, there's one of the Team Lakay guys as well. On that, man, talk about one. I like Mark Abelardo, man. He's a Kiwi but Filipino origin, and he's a real kick-ass fighter, man. Have you watched him fight?
Yeah, he's a solid little pit bull. Yeah, he's very he reminds me of like a very similar fight style to like a John Lineker sort of, come forward, and it doesn't matter what you throw at him, he's always gonna come at you, sort of thing. So I appreciate that style. I
love to see him in the UFC, man. It's difficult because he's up in tough division, tough fights and that, so the record doesn't always do justice to the skills, 100%. Man. He's a mad fighter. It'd be perfect for the crowd, fan favorite fighter, he's an awesome guy.
Yeah, a lot of guys, just sometimes don't get the chance to be in the UFC. And like, I knew this growing up. I used to always think like, back when Anderson Silva was the middleweight champion, I always used to think, who was the guy that was kicking Anderson Silva's ass in the gym and pushing him to the limit every day, and then I also thought about the same thing with Fedor Emelianenko back when he was heavyweight champion and he was smashing everyone. He was undefeated for how long? And then you think to yourself, well, who's his training partner? Who's the one that's pushing him every day to get better? So there's a lot of guys that we don't know of that are, absolute beasts that just don't get the chance or don't get the spotlight, or it's just one of the things of luck and opportunity. So
yeah, that's true, man. That's true. How would you describe your style yourself? Like obviously you've got a good mixed ability and not really doesn't look too preferential to one area. Like you can strike very well, you grapple very well. But how would you describe yourself?
I'd like to describe myself as very very calculated and very meticulous and set things up. I feel like fighting is like a game of wits and intelligence as much as it is the physical side of things, of being able to push the pace and being strong and fast, and but also being able to set things up like like chess. Like you'll give one thing but to gain something better, or like it I feel like I feel like my style is a lot of thinking style, where it's like a lot of planning and a lot of timing based on what I do. So yeah, something elusive. I'd like to say elusive and yeah, just very calculated and meticulous with what I do.
Yeah, man. And you're training currently at Igor Gym, right? And Igor, your trainer, I saw him mention that when you first came in, he noticed that you were humble and polite, man, which is kind of the qualities you just mentioned. So that's good that you're kind of following what you respect as well. How is the gym there, man? And how would you describe the gym?
Well, when I first started there weren't too many fighters. It was felt like a very commercial gym. Had a lot of guys just coming in to do their own workouts and get fit, do a kickboxing class here and there, where I had like one or two really solid training partners, but they weren't competitors either. So, but now that we have like a solid team, and now that I feel like I've made the UFC, and then we've currently got Alan Philpott, who's like my main training partner. He's joined the team now, and I feel like us two together, we've sort of created now like a really strong like attraction to a lot of younger fighters that want to chase the same career that I'm doing, and it's we're building a solid young team, and yeah, it's definitely changing from that old commercial sort of type of gym where guys are just coming in to do like a fitness session. Now it's actually becoming more of like a competitive, on the mats there's always going to be someone there that's going to be able to push you, sort of thing. So yeah, it's changed since when I first started.
And also know that you've trained a bit with Jamie Malarkey and other professionals like Alexander Volkanovski, Richie Vass. Can you talk on that at all, how that is with the community that you guys have kind of created?
Yeah, for sure. I feel just like if as an Aussie, if you can make it to like that high level of like the international level, that you sort of like, I don't know how to put it, but basically we just all get around each other, and we're just we're always supporting. Like when you get to that sort of level, like it's like you just become closer just based off knowing that you guys achieved the same sort of level. And yeah, it's like just a camaraderie. Like you just feel like a part of a group. Like you have to really think about it. It's like how many Aussie New Zealanders in the UFC? It's like compared to the hundreds of fighters that are on the roster, there's only like I'd say 10, 15 of us on there. Max 15 of us in the UFC. And yeah, you just feel like this camaraderie just because like you're a part of the UFC, and fighting at a high level, that you guys can respect and appreciate each other's achievements, even to just get there. It's like it's achievement itself to get there. So yeah, we and to be honest, a lot of us, like me, Volko, Jamie, in the UFC, we only live an hour away from each other. Like Jamie's an hour north for me, and Volk is an hour south for me. So like there's no real big deal. Like we can always catch up and train. So it's nice to know that like I get that high level international kind of experience and training with guys that are only an hour away from me.
Yeah, and it's good that you can like then learn because if everyone's getting together, you get that collective. Whereas if you stay in just one gym and only learn from that one gym, it's kind of what do you call it? It's like it's enclosed and you're not learning more. But when everyone's coming from everywhere, learning different things, you can pick up extra things from these guys, right?
100%.
Yeah. Man, so what are your current plans? Any fights coming up? What's your expected trajectory for 2022, 2023?
So yeah, like this year, I want 3 fights. I still want 3 fights, even though we haven't started off on the right foot. Um, for most people that don't know, I caught COVID, and because I was in training camp, I tried to push through and tried to train. Like even though I was self isolating and whatnot, I still tried to train and push through, and I just ended up making it really really bad for myself. And something that was meant to go, away in 1 or 2 days, I had it for like 5 or 6 days. And then on top of that, after my isolation, when I tried to actually train again, I just couldn't. I just felt like a heavy chest, and I just couldn't breathe, and whatever else that came with it. It just felt like, I just couldn't train. And then just to be honest, this year has just been a shit show, but you can only control what you control. And we'll hopefully get the 3 fights by the end of this year.
Yeah, man. Anything on the cards, or it's anything in the works, or you're not sure?
Not too sure at the moment. But hopefully we're either on in June. I'm hoping either June or May. That'd be ideal, just so that that like the rest of the half of the year, I can start to pump out these fights as well. So, God willing, that hopefully we can get everything done right properly, and I am 100% healthy, and we can get there.
Cool. Hey, can you just discuss a little bit like what your current training schedule is compared to what your your fight training schedule would be, your fight training camp schedule?
To be honest, there's not too much difference in where my normal training and my fight camp sort of training schedule. It's more so the intensity of each session, and obviously when we're getting ready for a specific opponent, we have a specific game plan that you train. So you're doing more specific training, and also at a higher intensity. But right now, the training that I'm doing is a lot of like upskilling, a lot of stuff that obviously a lot of stuff that you wouldn't do in a fight camp, like stuff that you don't train normally, you'll train. So there's not too much difference in terms of that. And plus another thing that is probably just a little bit different is that the sparring isn't as hard and not as frequent. So usually like in fight camp, I'd spar 2 times a week. And then in like a normal training every week to week schedule, I only spar once a week. And it won't even be as intense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man, it's interesting how things have changed. Like in the past, people would just fight and then stop and get fat and kick back, and then they'll train up for the next fight. But that's old school now. Yeah, you got to keep moving, right? Because the game just keeps evolving and moving, and everyone else is upskilling. So that downtime between fights is not time for getting fat anymore. It's time for upskilling, right?
That's probably the more valuable time. Like it takes a long time to learn a certain skill and get good at that certain skill, where it doesn't take too long to lose a couple kilos and to get fit. Well, it shouldn't take too long compared to learning a skill. Learning a skill and getting good at that skill, and being able to perform it live takes a lot of time and a lot of effort into learning a new skill, where getting fit and getting strong shouldn't take as long as that. So the time outside of the fight camp is very precious in terms of upskilling, because you won't have that time when you're obviously getting ready for a specific opponent. There's no time for you to learn this new stuff. Oh my God, what's going on?
Still here, bro.
I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on.
Didn't
My
touch
phone
it.
just went black.
It's interesting. Maybe it just it probably just didn't touch it for a while, so it's like closing off, right? Maybe.
Oh, good. Sorry about that.
I can cut shit out easy, bro. It's easy. Yeah.
Oh, good. There's not too much difference, bro.
And just wanted to know your thoughts on your recovery, sleeping, diet, this sort of thing. Like, how much attention do you pay to these things?
I never used to be honest. I never used to pay attention to much of it. I used to stay up all night and, wake up, and wake up early and just like run off. Like it's tough, but also it's something that I never used to pay attention to. It is, for me, it is hard for me to get a good night's sleep regardless. I've always struggled with sleep, but I've been focusing a lot more on definitely on my sleep and, my recovery, my hydration. So that's something that I I have worked on a lot, considering, you know, back when I was working as a tradie and, you know, not drinking any water throughout the day and then training at night, you know, ending up with like severe cramps and stuff at the end of the night. And, you know, yeah.
Do you have any sort of dietitian you work with or anything like that?
I actually used the fight dietitian, Geordie Sullivan. Everyone knows who Geordie is. He's the man. You know, he's looked after all of us. A lot of the, I think every single fighter in the UFC he's worked with. So in terms of like the Australia, New Zealand area, I think he's worked with. So yeah, he's the man. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, man. I had a chat with him one day. Good guy, and yeah, it's good that the science of eating is helping you guys to, you know, perform to a higher level at a maximum, so the ideal weight for your fighting size, right? It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey man. Also wanted to ask you. Obviously, you look pretty comfortable in the ring. You look pretty almost like, you know, you're having fun in there. But it's a difficult thing to get in there. You're fighting against, you know, best in the world. How do you handle that pressure and the psychological side of things?
I think the biggest thing is just the preparation. I feel like if you don't cut corners in preparation, in your training and stuff, in your diet, in your recovery, I feel like you don't cut any corners there. There's nothing to be worried about when you step out there, because, you know, whether you win or you lose, you know, you gave yourself 100%. And, you know, what else more can you ask for if you've given your 100% and you still come up short? There's nothing else you can really ask for. So I gain all my confidence in my preparation, and also my coaches. I gain a lot of confidence in my coaches because I wholeheartedly entrust them to you know, to see what I don't see. So so preparation and my trust in my coaches and my training partners.
Yeah, man, it seems to be the common thread actually by a lot of high performers. That the thing is you can gain mental strength through working as hard as you can, and as everyone seems to say, leaving no stone unturned with training.
That's it. Well, everyone, it does sound cliche, but you know, it's the truth. It's honestly the truth. Like, you can't really knock yourself for being like, oh, you know, I can't believe I lost to that guy. Well, you know, as long as you know that you gave 100%, 110% of yourself, you dedicate yourself to this, and you still come up short, then what is there to be? You know, you gave it your all. That's it. Like, you should be proud that you gave it your all. Most people don't even try. Most people don't even bother trying, you know, because they're afraid of failure. You know, at least you're still going out there and you're trying. You've tried your best. And if you come up short, at least you tried your best. Most people are not even willing to try. So you're already one ahead on them guys. And them guys are going to stay in the same spot. At least you're constantly trying. So
that's true, man. Hey, being an MMA fighter, I think you kind of must become, you know, an expert at your own body, your own physicality and everything. And I think there'd be things you guys can share. You know, I just wonder if you have any sort of tips for the general sort of person, you know, on just being generally healthy, and you know, how you can do it. What are some of the good tips you'd learned yourself through being someone that trains multiple times a day, every day?
Probably one of the biggest things I think is, I was actually having a chat with one of the students, is that it's better to be consistent and work at a lower intensity than it is to go at a higher intensity and then miss 4 or 5 days because you're so sore from that one session. So I feel like, don't just go into the gym and smash yourself and train for 2-3 hours and then be completely smashed and, you know, not have any more energy or feel too sore for the rest of the week to do anything. Go in there, be consistent. You know, you don't have to smash yourself every single session. Just go in there, go through the motions, do what you can, and and like I said to you just then, it's just being consistent. You can't just knock yourself. Like, if you have one bad cheat meal, you can't just knock yourself and be like, all right, the rest of the week I'm eating shit because I already started shit. You can't be like that. You just gotta get back on the horse and, you know, try and be consistent again. You know, one bad meal, you've 4 good meals, you know, and just try and build from there. So yeah, just consistency. I think consistency and just trying and being consistent is like a massive thing. And it might not seem like much, but in the long run, those stuff adds up. Like, let's say if you go to the gym, you know, you start off going to the gym once a week, and the next week you go 2 days a week. you know, and you start building 2 days and it becomes 3 days a week. And by the time you know it, you know, you're doing 5-6 days training every week, and you're not burnt out, you're not too sore. And now look at you, you know.
Yeah, man. It's that the first point that you made about not going too crazy. That's something I heard Firas Zahabi talking about, that the important, you should never get to the next day that you're so tired that you can't train, or so sore that you've trained too hard if you do that, because it's gonna affect your next chance to train the next day and your chance to upskill and all that, right? So yeah, it makes sense exactly what you said. Hey man, I didn't ask you before when we're talking about your Filipino background. Do you speak Tagalog?
I speak a very, very, very broken version of it. I can like what they call Taglish.
Yeah,
it's like a mix of Tagalog and a mix of English. So like majority of what I'll say is in English, and then like key words will be in Tagalog.
Yeah.
So, and my Tagalog is like you can notice that my Aussie accent like shines through when I speak Tagalog. So yeah, very. Yeah, it's not too good.
Sounds like
but I understand. I can understand Tagalog like fluently. Like if there was a Filipino person, they spoke Tagalog to me, I could understand. But the way I would reply would be mostly English with keywords of being Tagalog. So.
Oh, that's good, man. That's at least you've carried it along, man. And then I guess you can try to, you know, get your kids to follow along further. You know, maybe they can study. That's it, man. Actually, I only know one Tagalog saying. It's anak nanti paklong. You know this one. That's the only thing I know. Son of a grasshopper. You know this one? Anak nanti paklong. Anak nanti paklong. It's slightly bad. Anak nanti paklong is like son of a grasshopper. It's a funny saying anyway. Yeah. But yeah, people understand me here when I've asked them. But yeah, anyway. All right, bro. So I've gone through all the questions that I had for you, man. It's good to meet you and good to have a chat. And I hope that we can keep in touch and just maybe have a chat before or after some upcoming fights, bro. I'd like to follow your progress and, you know, talk to you here and there if that's all right.
For sure, Toby. Appreciate it.
All right, bro. Thanks for your time, huh?
All right. Yeah.